Welcome to Bat Therapy, mental health through the lens of comics and film. Be a fly on the wall or a bat in the cave, listening in on a friendship built out of a love for talking Batman, comics, and the everyday struggle to achieve mental health and happiness.
We are your hosts, clinical psychologist Dr. Amelia Brown and educator and comic aficionado Keaton Hopkins. Don't forget to follow us on YouTube and social media and find our Patreon at patreon.com/battherapy.
This podcast is about providing education and understanding and is not a replacement for mental health treatment or support. If you're needing help, go to bat-therapy.com for resources.
All right. So,
All right.
Doomsday Files Wakanda.
Yes. So I know I'm doing like the whole psychology spiel at the start. Like, hey, what would S.H.I.E.L.D. say? What would this, that, and the other be? And maybe part of it's because we had a little bit of break. Keaton actually came and visited for South by.
I did.
He did. So it might be there was a little break in recording. I think a lot of it has to do with just like how sad I didn't want to watch the Wakanda stuff. It makes me sad.
Heavy.
So I think there was a little bit of an avoidance factor for me where I didn't like want to think about it hardcore psychology wise. So I don't have my S.H.I.E.L.D. assessment. I'm sorry. I didn't do my homework.
That's completely okay. So this was like, I have not watched Wakanda Forever a lot, and it's not because it's a bad movie. It's because so shortly after, and like, you know this, but our listeners might not. So shortly after Wakanda Forever came out, I lost my best friend. It was like sudden. It was just like, and it was one of those things because that movie hit on loss so much. I'll just never forget. Like, I took a trip to the beach and the Wakanda Forever soundtrack popped up on my Spotify and I listened to it. And I just that movie just sits
It
with
like
me.
forced you to have a Shuri moment like she does at the end of the movie. That's mean. I can't believe it did that to you.
Yeah, but it's also so good. The music is so good, but like Shuri just goes through it. And I really, really love like how it shows her anger and how that manifests in Wakanda, like especially in like their spirit realm with the ancestors and how
you're in trouble. You're in trouble when Killmonger.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's when like.
And so it was such a movie about, because you see Shuri and her mom mourning T'Challa. You just saw them mourning T'Chaka. And then, of course, Shuri loses her mom too, the queen.
Yeah, but like, let's also, okay, as a psychologist, like as a therapist, watching this movie, knowing that the character they're mourning was played by an actor who has died, so you know that the actors are mourning at the same time. It's so meta in a very intense. It honestly, in some ways, I feel like I kind of closed off a part of my emotional self to the movie because I was just like, I'm not ready to just get flooded with all the empathy it was. I mean, of course, movies and TV shows and comics and all these things, of course, they're meant to help us be tied to things that we experience in real life. But like, this was a different level.
Yeah. It was heavy. It like, cause like you said, I think it's because we know that like Chadwick actually passed away. And
and so
young.
That did.
And he was the best. Like, he was such a good character. And it was one of those things where like I still think about how like for the longest time they were like, oh, well, we can't have another Black Panther. Like, he was the best. We can't recast him. And at this point, I really feel like it's one of those things where I do want them to, just because I feel like I really feel like that's what he would want, but also it's one of those things like, okay, listen, I'll just say it. White characters get recast all the time. There's been multiple James Bonds. There's been multiple Supermen. There've been multiple Batmans. Like, Batman, there can be another T'Challa. Like, he set the bar incredibly high. It might not ever be touched, but I feel like as far as what Black Panther stands for, especially when it comes to African Americans and like how he's our superhero, right? And so it's one of those things where I think he should be recast because representation matters, and he's absolutely excellent. And I'm really
And, it makes me think of, say, the Joker and how Heath Ledger came up. It's like, why would you redo the Joker live
Mhm.
action? Jack Nicholson did such a good job and blah, blah. And then, like, you get blown away. So you never know. And I think you're right. There are all these examples where we've allowed characters to be reborn by other actors, whether you just pretend that nothing changed. I mean, my gosh, Fresh Prince, didn't they replace the mom with a different actress?
Yeah, they did at one point.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, it's been done for so
Yeah, yeah.
long,
They do it
right?
plenty
So
of times.
they do it
Yeah.
plenty of times. So, I think you're right in that there's these movies are so phenomenal and the representation. I can only imagine what it's like for you because I'm in awe when I watch it, and I love just being able to experience it and be exposed. I love being exposed to different cultures, and they do such a cool job with all of that. And his character tied it all together. And I think that's what they were showing in Wakanda Forever is just how the country stayed true to itself while
Mhm.
also people were a bit lost all at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, the queen, Angela Bassett's character, she very much is like, "Don't mess with us.
Right.
We can tell you all think we're falling apart. We
Ugh,
still know what we're doing."
what a speech.
Right? So amazing. Oh my gosh, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was texting Keaton saying, this like 60-something-year-old woman's making me feel bad about my 30-something-year-old self. Like, oh God, I'm
Yeah.
never going to age that well. But she just has such a presence for the
Yeah.
country. But then you have Shuri, right? And you have all these shifting parts like M'Baku, his role changing so
Mhm.
much in this movie. It's incredible how they honestly it shows the change of death and transition and how some things remain the same and some things really shift.
Mhm.
And how do you hold both of those truths at the same time?
Right. And I think watching because so what I did is I went through and I watched all of the movies that had Wakanda in it.
Mm,
So I made sure to watch just the snippet of Civil War where T'Challa's talking to T'Chaka. I'd watched that. Then, of course, I watched Black Panther. I watched in the Wakanda parts of Infinity War,
yep, yep, yep.
and then, of course, Wakanda Forever. I did not watch Eyes of Wakanda, the animated show.
Mm.
I didn't watch that. But one thing that is interesting is throughout, Shuri is always, it makes it that much more heartbreaking. She's always this very happy go lucky
Yeah.
character. She's absolutely brilliant, but she just brings joy whenever she's there. Like her character, like whenever she was on screen, it just made you happy because she's sassy, she's witty. Like I said, she's very brilliant and she's just fun. And it's like it all just got snatched away because she loved her family, she loved her country got destroyed. Her brother passed away. Her father passed away. Her mother passed away. All of a sudden,
Also disappeared for 5 years. Did
she
she
did too.
disappear?
Yeah,
Oh,
she
she did.
did
Okay.
too.
So never
Yeah,
mind. Nix
yeah,
that
she
because she
did
wouldn't
too.
have noticed.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, so she did too, for that. But yeah, and so it's one of those things where she's trying her best to pick up the pieces, but she can't take time to do that because she's thrust right onto the throne. And Namor, I mean, he said it best in the movies, like, "You're the queen now," and then just left. And he's like, "And I'm coming back in a few days to destroy the rest." And it's like, okay, no mourning process. And
Yeah.
so going into like what we're doing this season, what I'm interested in seeing is what her headspace is now that she's had time
Mm,
to mourn, that she's had time to kind of adjust and see what's next. Because one of the big things she did, which I completely approve of, is she gave up power. She's like, I'm not in a headspace to lead right now. I'm not in a headspace to run Wakanda right now. M'Baku, I think you are fit to lead. And then they show him at the end of Wakanda Forever, like challenging for the throne. And I assume that he does end up becoming the new leader of Wakanda since the Doomsday trailer showed him. Um, and so
Now, granted,
I'm
just in general, he mentioned so T'Challa, I think, knew. I think T'Challa had a sense because honestly, a lot of her lightheartedness and her ability to be the way she was, she talks a little bit, at least in this movie, about her brother. Her brother is how she could be such a smart, intelligent, quirky young woman in
Mhm,
that world. And I think he had a sense of the struggle she would have because she's essentially like, "M'Baku, why are you around?" He's like, "Well, your brother, he asked me to give you counsel."
mhm,
And so I I really like how M'Baku, his role with I mean, I love his character from the start anyway, but he and Shuri, I think, have some things in common. He's also very witty and his intelligence isn't like the technology side, but he's not all muscle. He's very observant. He has a general sense of things. So I loved seeing them both of them in that trailer or that little snippet that they showed because there's just something about what she's lost and what she needs. And M'Baku is a really great person to just, like you said, now that she hopefully has had some time, um, to just be able to help her figure out who she is from here.
mhm.
And once again, she's still Shuri, and also she's not, and how to deal with that.
Yeah. And M'Baku's also shown a lot of growth too, because I mean, when we first meet him, he's almost like an adversary when we
Mm,
first meet him because he is against a lot of the stuff that Wakanda has done. And this is before they even showed themselves to the world. He was
yeah.
like, all you do, you let a little girl be in charge of all your technology. This is what we've become. You couldn't protect our king. Like he's seemingly against all of it. And so for him to go from you let this little girl be your chief technology person to giving her counsel and actually being a source of reason, I think it's a testament to just how far he's grown in a pretty short amount of time, considering before that
Mhm.
he was like, we're not even coming down from the mountain.
Yeah.
And now you see him as a representative of Wakanda and possibly now their
Mhm.
king,
Yep.
which they might even say that he is in the trailer. I need to rewatch it again. Um,
One of the most heartbreaking things I found in the movie, because it just reminded me of so many people I've worked with. And I think it's acknowledging M'Baku's shift in how he views Shuri. She makes, I'm not good at quoting things exactly, but like she makes some comment about how he's seen her and how she's, just this little girl messing around in
mhm,
royalty. And he was like, essentially someone who has had as much loss as you have can no longer be viewed as, a little girl. Essentially saying you have been forced to live through so much life at this stage that I'm going to see you for who you are now.
yeah,
I
yeah,
found
no,
that so heartbreaking, because it was such an acknowledgement that she had gone, "So, there's this thing that we all or most of us really desperately want to believe, and it's that things are fair and just."
yeah,
And it m I'm sure there are cultural differences in that kind of mindset or whatnot, but at least here in this country, there really is this sense, especially because 'cause we're a country of, like, pick yourself up pull yourself up by your bootstraps and
right,
work yourself into blah, blah, blah. So this really strong sense of independent movement forward, and if you've got the gumption and the drive, you can get somewhere. And with that is really a deceptive belief in fairness and balance and justice that is not there.
right,
And our brains are desperate for that. And this just hits on we're talking about grief and loss. There's a grief and loss process a lot of times in therapy where a person they're desperately trying to figure out how does what's happened to me that's not fair, not
mhm,
just,
right,
how do I explain it given that I desperately want to believe that the world is a fair place?
right,
And that can really get you spinning in circles and cause all sorts of problems.
mhm,
And so, yeah, something like this is just heartbreaking. It's just this acknowledgement that you got dealt a heavier hand than a lot of people.
Yeah.
And because of that, you've been forced to grow up.
Not just that, but this is seemingly happening because you've reached out your hand to other people,
Mm,
right? Like when the dad showed up to be like, okay, sure, peace treaty or whatever that was when he showed up there in Civil War. It's like, okay, we left Wakanda to come communicate with the rest of the world, and he died. And then T'Challa is here, and he's like, all right, I'm gonna open up a support group here, or even what Killmonger went through. Like, it's like, okay, look at what happened with Wakanda when everybody butted heads on the proper way to reach out to the rest of the world. And then, of course, T'Challa, he's like seemingly like, okay, I'm the Black Panther now, and I'm gonna help get things back normal. And then Thanos shows up because he's like, oh, I'm gonna help Vision, and like he opened his doors. Every time Wakanda opens their doors, they get burned or they get hit the hardest, right? Because Thanos wrecked Wakanda. I feel like they don't
yeah.
touch on that in as much as they should, but a lot of Wakandans died in Infinity War in that big battle. And then of course, I'm sure a lot more died when they all came back after the snap,
Yeah.
right?
And I think Queen Ramonda, you see Wakanda in this interesting place. So I'm assuming it was the UN or something, where France and the United States and whoever was essentially like, we don't
Yeah.
trust that you can't just hold on to all the vibranium. We need to be able to have access to wah. And so now they're in this state of, okay, so we're not hiding. So we're not isolating ourselves in a way where we're fully protecting ourselves by just like, you guys don't even know what's going on. Now they're openly out there, but she makes it very clear we don't trust any of you because you have not shown us that you are capable of being trusted. And then waltzes in their mercenaries that they, meanwhile, are trying to have steal all the stuff that they're asking for. It's definitely a very interesting place that they're in now, where it's okay, now everyone knows that we're a powerhouse
Hmm.
and they're trying to bully us into essentially sharing our wealth with them. And we're saying no. And honestly, I bet a big part of that too is looking 5-6 years back and saying, look at all the stuff that we did. We have proven how much we are willing to help. And you all are trying to go behind our backs, take these things. And, on the flip side, it must be hard for the rest of the world because it's like, y'all aren't special. This stuff just like dropped in your laps. And that made, your lives so much easier. How nice must that be? Like I'm sure it's
Right.
not easy from the outside.
Right.
But yeah, Wakanda, well, it's interesting because I mean, our own country and probably a lot of countries go through a lot of phases like isolationism. And okay,
Hmm.
so now we're trying to open our doors and all these ups and downs and in betweens. It's actually really cool to look at it from a country level in the movies as well. But yeah, Wakanda's a very interesting place.
Yeah. And so I would not be surprised if with Doomsday coming up, if Wakanda has shifted back into
I wouldn't know.
we keep to ourselves. And the reason they're coming out here is the same reason, and back to our roots here a little bit, the same reason Batman interacts with the Justice League. It's like, fine, if the world is about to be destroyed, that includes Gotham. So I guess I'll come show up to fight. And I think that's what's happening here. And honestly, that's also what ended up happening in Infinity War and in
That's true.
Endgame as well. It's like, okay,
That's true.
Thanos was going to snap away all of existence. That includes Wakanda. And so
It's true. Yeah, that's a good point.
we're going to come fight. Yeah, we'll show up.
That's a good point. But I mean, the thing is that Wakanda's also been helping all along. It's just, how shall we put this? Probably not in ways that the colonizing countries care about. So, because I mean, like they've been doing all sorts of things, but they tend to focus on the countries that are needing support and probably have more similar ways of looking at things to how
Right.
they are. But yeah, I bet you're right. I bet that it would make sense after everything that happened. Plus, they are having to rebuild. They are having to restructure their leadership. There's just a lot happening. It makes sense that they would withdraw a bit. Withdraw makes it sound unhealthy, but just kind of like, you know how you have a really rough day.
Set boundaries.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Set
Yeah.
some
It's need
boundaries.
to
Because, like,
set
let's say
boundaries.
you have a
Yeah.
really rough day, you're going to focus in on, okay, hopefully you're going to focus on what do I just need right now? And a lot of times you need rest. You need the people who you know are going to support you, and you need to take a pause from the people who are a bit toxic, like the United States in this case for Wakanda. So I think you're right. It would make a lot of sense if they pulled back from things. Not necessarily, they would probably still want to have some sort of presence because honestly, without a presence, people are going to see them as weak and try and stomp on them. So
Hmm.
they're probably not like just totally withdrawing from everything, but they're probably less apt to participate in a lot of things.
And it's very interesting because I kind of draw a little, I kind of draw a few parallels between like Wakanda and how they are now. And honestly, Steve Rogers and how he felt as far as like, okay, who gets to tell the Avengers what to do? Right. Because
Mm,
Wakanda is this powerhouse and they're sitting on a mountain of vibranium, which has great uses, but obviously can be weaponized.
mm,
And it's one of those things like, okay, do we want to just open it up so that whoever can vote on what happens to us? Or because we're this powerhouse and we've seen what can happen here, we stick to ourselves? Because one thing that's also interesting is Wakanda also does justice its own way. Right
mm,
in Falcon Winter Soldier, the Dora Milaje, they show up because they're like, okay, if Zemo's out, we want him because he's the one that killed our king, right? Like they showed up there. And same thing with in the first Black Panther with Claw. It's like,
oh, right. Yeah.
they're like, yeah, like, okay, yeah, fine. The CIA or the FBI, whoever y'all are, we don't care if you want him. We want him because he killed Wakandans and he has to answer for that, right? But at the same time, they weren't coming after Wanda because of the Wakandans that were killed there because they know it was a mistake. They were just like, okay, y'all got to figure this out because stuff like this can't keep happening, which is fair and warranted. But at the same time, it wasn't like they were headhunting for her, right? Like they opened their doors willingly to let her and Vision in and took them in. Same thing, even at the end of Civil War, it was like, okay, we know this wasn't Bucky
Mm.
and we see how Bucky was used. We're going to take Bucky in and we're going to take care of him and figure it out, right?
And I love how what he really needed was to just live in a tent without TV and
Yeah.
the rush and rigmarole of American life. He needed something very different. And I
Yeah.
just feel that in my soul sometimes too.
And there's a part there too where I wish they had touched on a little bit because I would have loved because Wakanda, one of the coolest things about it is how technologically advanced they are. I would have really liked to have seen like what deprogramming, and I don't know
Mm,
if I don't know if that's the proper term for when you're talking about a human mind, but like what they did to kind of
yeah.
reverse all of those code words and all of the stuff
Mhm.
that Hydra had done to him. Because yeah, Wakanda is like a place that's honestly it's too good to be true, right? They're not perfect, but they also have reasons for everything that they
Yeah.
did. And you keep seeing the growth there, you keep seeing the exploration of it. Because even when Shuri talks in the ancestral plane to Killmonger, Killmonger's like, your mom died saving Riri. Your dad would have just killed her.
Mm, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that was it. And so throughout, it's like, okay, we're showing growth because he said T'Challa was great, but he was too noble. And at that point, that's when you're like, and you're still Killmonger, and I can see why you were a problem.
Speaking of problems and history with characters, more we haven't talked about where his character is gonna be in this next movie. So
Yeah.
I feel like rewatching because it's been a long time since I watched Wakanda Forever because it makes me sad. I know, such a healthy psychologist over here.
A
watching it,
psychologist should have emotions. I don't
I
want
have
one
them
that
during the
doesn't.
day when I come home.
Hugo
I don't want
Strange
to.
likes this.
Anyway, when I was watching it again, I had forgotten, and it made a lot more sense to me given how the movie ended that Namor might pop up again, because at the end, Shuri essentially says, "If you yield, we'll let your people live," and blah 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 blah. And he yields, and then his warrior person is like really mad about it, and he's essentially saying that Wakanda doesn't have, so exactly what you were saying, essentially. Wakanda is a very unique place. All they have is themselves, and they essentially, the ones they have the most in common with are Namor and his people, despite the fact that all this shit went down in Wakanda Forever that is very intense. And so it's it's I mean, I guess to be fair, if you look at our history, we all hang out with Japan and Germany and Italy, and you have to find a way to get over some really, really terrible stuff. And if you're looking at things like over the really long haul, you're all in this world together. So how's it going to work out? So, I
Yeah.
find it realistic in some ways, but in other ways, it's so hard to grasp how Namor is going to fit in.
And it's also very, very difficult. And this is really touching on some real world stuff here, because I can't imagine how difficult it is to have diplomacy and look at lives lost as this was war. We can't
Yeah.
have revenge for that. Like the person that says we have to break this cycle. Yes, my family members died in this war. My family members were lost in this battle, but we have to stop fighting and get along, because that's a hard thing to do, right? Like I can't imagine, like, even like if we're talking about World War II or honestly,
Any war.
any soldier anywhere that's been in battle and they've lost platoon members or they've lost limbs or they have trauma or PTSD from any of these things. And then hearing, okay, that's over. We got to let it go home. And you're like, no, I'm angry. I've lost so much. Like I've lost time. I've lost potentially part of my body. I've lost friends or family members. And now you're saying it's over. And so that right there, I was honestly like, it made, I think, Wakanda Forever that much more of a powerful ending, that because we see that like when T'Challa faced off with M'Baku on Challenge Day and he's like,
Yeah. Mhm.
yield, your people need you. That's one thing, because it's like, okay, Wakandans, and this is tradition and this is just how we do things. And he's like, your people need you. Shuri did that with the person that killed her
Yeah.
mother,
Yeah.
that killed a whole lot of Wakandans.
Yeah.
Right? Shuri
And
did
without
that.
mercy.
Right. She did that given that. And that is something that I wonder if there were any repercussions in Wakanda there, because we saw how that played out in the first Black Panther when it was like, oh, Black Panther didn't capture Claw. And a lot of Wakandans, Daniel Kaluuya's character and his people in particular, whose father was killed by Claw, they were kind of like, all right, we'll be cool. We'll be Killmonger, since he was the one that actually brought Claw to justice. Right. And so there might be some sentiments there like, no, we will never get along with Namor or their people because I lost family members when he flooded Wakanda and he killed our queen. You might have gotten past it, Shuri, or you might, or maybe she didn't, but she realized I can't let everybody die because of my anger. And I think that's what she learned when she was talking to Killmonger. It's like, okay, yeah, I went to the ancestral plane, but the lesson learned here is I can't be like that, right? I have to be willing to shift gears here and not just make it about me and my anger and my vendetta and my vengeance.
Well, and anger can feel so good.
Yes.
Can feel very good to feed anger, especially if your other option is the total despair and loss of your entire
Yes.
family, like for her, right?
Right.
There and then the risk of losing your country and just all sorts of stuff. Like anger is so enticing, and usually it's layered on top of something else. It's a lot more brutal to feel, but necessary in order to get through. And An interesting example I feel like of the dangers of anger is she was really feeding that anger
Hmm.
and it was quietly simmering, right? So there's, subtle little like Nakia's like, who did you see? Who'd you see? And she's getting this hint, but there's not this like big explosive Shuri going around. I mean,
Right.
you can kind of tell there's a tude there, but it's a quiet simmer for a while. But I think something that actually showed how you have to be careful with anger is okay, she's going to the ancestral plane. She has lost her family.
Hmm.
One of the things I feel like they could have shown a little bit better is she was probably desperate to see one of her family members there.
She was so you could tell she was so excited.
She was so excited and she was probably just so overwhelmed with the need to connect with, I think she called it for her mom. And her anger meant that she did not get to see her mom.
Yeah.
She saw Killmonger instead.
Yeah.
And so I think there are just some subtleties with how that went too, where it just shows that if you're not careful, the anger that is propelling you forward, it might feel really, really good, but it
Hmm.
might actually be causing such a rift for you that you can't even access the things that are most important to you that you desperately need.
Yeah.
And
That
instead,
was
you just
yeah.
are wrapped up more and more in the anger. Or in her case, you're just connecting more and more with Killmonger when he's not why you went there.
Right. Right. That's a very good point. And so coming into Doomsday,
Yes.
I think that it's really going to be, I'm interested in seeing the dynamic between M'Baku and Shuri because
Hmm.
Shuri seemingly gave up power, but she's still, as far as the royal bloodline goes, she's still the queen as far as things go. And I'm wondering how that plays out. Like, is she going to come back and say, okay, you know what, M'Baku, you're the one in charge? Or is it going to be one of those things like, I took my time, I'm going to leave
Mm,
now, right? Like, I wonder how that's going to be. And I also wonder what they're going to immediately get thrust into and how
yeah.
many of the Wakandans are going to be like, I'm done fighting for other people. I'm done fighting for other people until that thing like, okay, yeah, but the entire world is about to be destroyed. And I'm interested in seeing who we might end up seeing again because this is a multiverse movie.
Sure. Yep.
One thing that I've thought about, and I'm not gonna lie, and it's because I'm such a huge fan. I've
Mhm.
thought about in an alternate universe where Sterling K. Brown in his character ended up not coming to America and ended up becoming Black Panther, and so having potentially a different son, not Michael B. Jordan, who could be the new Black Panther or T'Challa, or like introducing T'Chaka and T'Challa and having them simultaneously in the roles or something like that.
Mhm.
But a boy can dream.
Yeah.
I just love
I
Sterling K. Brown.
well, yeah.
Yeah.
So, the reason that I don't think that they're gonna play with the multiverse stuff with Wakanda is they just have too many people that they're dealing with. And
Yeah.
also that would be really cool.
Yeah.
I like all the, like you and I watched What If. I don't think I've seen some of their newer episodes, but What If plays around with some of the, Wakanda characters and stuff. And I'm totally on board with it. Don't get me wrong. I would love to see that. That would be great. But I just doubt they'll have the bandwidth to play around with it too much. It's my only thing about this movie is there's so many
Yeah.
people in it. I'm like, there's so much cool stuff you just won't have time for.
It's so many people in it, but also we have absolutely no idea what the plot is. Like, at least with Avengers Infinity War, we knew Thanos is going to wreck something. Like, he's coming and he's going
Sure.
to wreck it. Like, we've been waiting for it. They've been teasing it for 20 movies now. And now he's got the gauntlet. He's coming to wreck. Like, he's coming to wreak havoc on Earth and the universe. With Doomsday, it's called Doomsday, and this is a new thing because before we were going to be doing King the Conqueror, but things went south with Jonathan Majors. And so
Yep.
now we're doing Doomsday. We're glossing over that. And here's the new Fantastic Four. And we're packaging it and selling it. And that's what, and it's like, okay. And Robert Downey Jr.'s Dr. Doom. Every single Doom fan on the planet is like, the hell. And so
Really?
there's, yeah, because, well, it's Dr. Doom is like, he is the people love Doctor Doom. And so it was one of
Mm.
those things. I think when they cast RDJ as Doom, a lot of people were just kind of eyebrow raising, like, don't make Doctor Doom into a Tony Stark variant. Like, no, he's ours. No, that is not a thing. Don't you dare. Right. And so I think that a
Robert
lot of
Downey Jr.
people,
does tend to play a certain kind of like quirky, off the cuff character.
yeah. And
I
so I'm
won't count him
excited.
out yet, though.
No, I'm excited to see what he does with it, but like there's so much weight that comes with Doctor Doom and Latveria, and I feel like he's never been portrayed correctly in the movies. And so I think a lot of people want to see him done
Yeah.
right. And this doesn't seem like what people want, but at the same time, we don't know
We don't know what we
anything as
want.
far as
We don't
what
know what we want. Yeah.
they're gonna do.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting. I don't know. We'll see. Honestly, I'm just happy to know that I'll get more M'Baku because he is my fave.
It's the
Also,
best.
I love that the actor's name is Winston Duke, which is
It's a
maybe the
great name.
most badass name I've ever seen. And when I looked up, so Keaton knows this.
I know where
I'm
you're going.
terrible with names, so I always have to have the cast list up. And his picture on the cast list is just like exactly how someone named Winston Duke should look. He's in like this all black thing with a gold chain and some sunglasses on, just looking just like a total badass who would be named Winston Duke. So,
Yeah.
I love me some M'Baku.
He also voiced Batman in the Spotify
Wait, that was him?
podcast. Yeah, the Batman Unburied, the Batman scripted podcast series. Yeah, he played
was him?
Batman. Yes, that was him. And so of course you love him.
Of course I love
You
it. See,
gotta
I didn't
love
even
him.
know that. I didn't even
Yeah.
know that. I just knew
Yep.
he was my kindred spirit.
Yep. We had he played Batman. And so I would love, oh gosh, yeah. I love him in everything that he's shown up in. And yeah, he was great as M'Baku. And like I said, I think one of the most interesting things is how we saw such a shift in him between
Yes.
Black Panther and then in Wakanda Forever. Like, I mean, night and day as far as like his character, because you could see how hurt he was at T'Challa's funeral as well at the beginning of Wakanda Forever.
So, I mean, here's, the thing with M'Baku. His people were like the ones that were squirreled away in the mountainside, and there was a disconnect there. And I think that T'Challa, it seems like, you saw a few snippets, and just based on where you see M'Baku at now, there was work done to reconnect that tribe to everyone else. And so, I think M'Baku, absolutely did grow. And some of it, though, is that I think the rest of Wakanda also grew, and they found ways to just like better reconnect that tribe to everyone else also. Because I mean, you can tell from the beginning, he's very loyal to his people. Yes, he's Wakandan, but it gets a little bit more specific once you're within Wakanda. So.
Yeah, it's certainly more what's the word? Nuanced.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm really interested in seeing diplomatic M'Baku and seeing how that goes. Because in Wakanda Forever, you see him and he's definitely looking at it like, okay, war would be devastating for Wakanda. This would be very bad. But that's one of those things like, do we fight or don't we? Versus him in a diplomatic position. Like, okay, two people in Wakanda are arguing. How do we get past this? Or how is Wakanda gonna interact with the rest of the world? And so I think we're gonna see another side of M'Baku now.
And I think it's gonna be glorious because the thing is that I think he sees a lot of things as trivial, or it's like, this is not a big deal. And would probably just like have some witty, hilarious thing. But there's a lot to him, and I think he deals with the nuances very well, and you don't necessarily expect both of those things from the same character. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, well, yeah, and plus, like you said, everybody's coming back for this. I think that the Wakandans have peace with Namor and his people. I don't think they're cool with Namor and his people. Like, that's still
Yeah.
That's still a hell of a wound to have. I mean, you can't ask, and it's one of those things when it comes to grief, when it comes to loss, you can't tell people just get over it, right? Like, oh, that was 5 years ago. Get that you got to get up. Like, no, that was our queen, and you murdered her. You killed a lot of Wakandans. And yes, we're not at war with you, but everybody has not let that go. It kind of reminds me of like you were talking about like Germany and Italy and like the older generations that actually physically went to war in World War II with these countries versus us now. And we're like, yeah, the Nazis were bad, but that was a long time ago. Like, I'm not mad at Germany, but there's some World War II veterans out there that are still very angry
Yeah.
about it, right? And we can't tell them
And
you
so,
can't be.
and it's different being the people that went to war too, and the people whose families went through concentration camps, for example. So yeah, I think you're right. The interesting thing with Namor is he wouldn't take it personally, I don't think, because he also holds a very strong grudge from, a long time ago, hundreds of years ago, related to people on the surface. And he's also strategic, and he sees it as, we have these things. You all are the people we have the most in common with up here, and we're probably the people you have the most in common with, even though you're surrounded by other surface dwellers and whatnot. And I don't know. I
That's a good point.
feel like at least Namor, he would understand where that was coming from. And I think that's one of the only ways that it can work. Because he would be like, you know what? Sure, yeah, I did some stuff. I'm not sorry for it, but I totally see why you don't trust me and don't like me for it. Also, we got this big whatever it is that this movie's gonna have. What are we gonna do about it?
Yeah.
Doomsday, whatever
Yeah.
that means.
And that's a good point too. The only reason Namor is coming up on the surface is because it's a global level threat. It's like, oh, if they win, then everybody goes. And so that's why we're here. Like I think
Yeah,
that's
so it's gotta
it's gotta be bad.
boil the oceans too or
Right.
something.
It's gotta
Because
be
they're way
bad.
down deep.
Yeah. It's gotta be bad. Yeah. Namor didn't show up when Thanos was attacking. Like he was like, not my problem. Ocean will still be here. Like, I don't know.
More room for the fish.
My name's Paul. That's between y'all. Like it was like this is one of those things, right? And so yeah, I hope when he shows back up, he's sinking oil containers, like and just
There you go.
I hope he's the one sending the orcas to sink boats. I hope that's him. That'd be great.
Thanks for nerding out with us. I'm clinical psychologist Dr. Amelia Brown.
And I'm educator and comic aficionado Keaton Hopkins. Check out my TV and movie reviews on YouTube at Team JBS. Check out our website at bat-therapy.com, our Bat Therapy YouTube channel, and follow us on social media. And don't forget our Patreon page at patreon.com/battherapy. See you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.